Now we're going to look at inserting tables into Microsoft Word. Here I have an example table which we're going to try to emulate. So first thing, I need to click on my document, place my insertion point at the point that I want my table to appear. So now I have my insertion point, and I'm going to insert my table. Now you'll notice that the example table, the look of it seems to have 3 columns and quite a few rows. Columns of course go are vertical and rows are horizontal. So I'm going to start with the 3 columns and an extra row. So what I did, I clicked on Insert tab, Table, and I just highlighted over what I want and it appears on the screen. Or I can click on Insert Table and manually type in what I wish to see. 3 columns, 2 rows, and it appears. Now when it appears, the columns will be equal width. And I can type. This is the one place I rather type after I insert a table. I usually like to type first and then format text, but not with a table. It always seems easier to insert a table and then type what I wish into the table. Okay, now if I wanted to insert a 4th column, I can right click in this last column and a menu appears. I can put insert, point to insert, and I have insert columns to the left, insert columns to the right, so 1 will appear. So let me try 1 to the left, and it appears. Or I could have inserted to the right. You would notice that when I right click and insert, I can also insert rows as well. So I have that option. But I wish to delete this extra column. Now, when I am not clicked on the table, notice my insertion point is not on the table, my menu bar looks as normal. But when I click on the table, my menu bar has 2 additional tabs. There's Design and Layout. In Layout, there's also the option to insert above or below be rows. Insert left or right would be columns. Now I want to delete this column, and I can right click, delete, and the menu appears and you see delete columns. Or I can select from the Layout tab, delete, and I want to delete columns. Now just notice that I highlighted the entire column, which is why it was able to see that I wanted to delete columns. If I did not highlight the column, just clicked in the first cell, right click, you'll see it says delete cells, and then it will ask what I want to delete. Now the other thing so let me delete from the menu, from the ribbon. Alright, just so you see it works the same way, but my table has kind of reduced, and I can adjust my table, I can resize my columns. If you look on the ruler, my top ruler, you will see some grayed out spots which indicate where my columns are. And I can drag and drop on those places and have my columns resized. Same thing on the vertical ruler. The same gray spaces are there, and I can resize and readjust my rows as well if I wished. Or I can place my cursor in between on the line of the column, and you'll see my cursor change. It's normally like an eye, and it will change to a double arrow, and now I can drag and drop, right, and I can line it up with my example table. Other cursors that you will see, so we have the eye, we have the double arrow, and there is a thick black arrow pointing down, which will highlight my column. Or if I go on the other side, well, I see a normal cursor and it will highlight my entire row. So just different cursors are available to you, or you can drag and drop as normal. Alright, so far we inserted a table, we inserted a column, inserted a row, and deleted a row and column. We also resized rows and columns. Another way to insert a column is if you click on the last cell. So each block in the table is called a cell, and if I press tab on the keyboard, another row appears. So I could keep typing and press tab on the keyboard and another row will appear. So I believe I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows in my example table, and I have 4, so here I need an extra one. Alright, so I could type in. Okay, you will notice that this cell is called merge cells, and if you look at the example one, it seems to encompass or merge the two of the cells, the second and the third rows actually. So I should say the second and third rows, the cells in that second and third row. So I can highlight those cells, right click, merge cells, and there it goes. It looks the same. It's also available in the layout tab, merge cells. So let's try it again. I see it has merge cells in the next one. So I'm going to highlight first, then layout tab, merge cells. Alright, continue typing. To go from cell to cell, I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard. I can click in the cell, or I can press tab on the keyboard. So tab on the keyboard will move from cell to cell, and if I reach the last cell, of course if I press tab again, it gives me a new row. Let me get rid of that, so I'll just undo in this case, because it was the last thing I did. Alright, thing I just did though, I typed split cell. So if you look at the example, that column seems to have 2 cells within that space. So it's called split cells. So I'm going to just right click on this cell, and I'm going to look for split cells, and I'm going to say what I want. So it seems like I have 2 columns. So right click, split, 2 columns, 1 row. Alright, again, layout tab has the same thing, has the same option. So now I have, let me copy and paste split cells here this time. Right, there we go. Next thing to see is that I can highlight my font as normal, as you've been shown in previous video. So I highlighted my table headings. Home tab, that looks bold. I'm going to center line. Right. Then we want to format the look of the table itself. So I can click anywhere in my table. I can highlight the entire table, or if you notice there's a little box with 4 arrows within it, I can click on that and my entire table will be highlighted. So once I have my table, I've clicked in my table or highlighted my table, click Design tab, and I have some preset options here. I can choose any one. Right, let's go back to my normal one. Then there's the shading option. You'll notice that my table headings are kind of been grayed out. So let's do that. I'm going to highlight too much. Highlight just the first row and click on shading and choose whatever color I want or whatever I want to do. Alright. Next thing is the borders. I can highlight my borders. So you'll notice there's a thicker border here. So this time I can draw a table. Pen color is black and the thicker one. So I want a thicker one, maybe 3 points. And I just drag and drop along the line and my border appears. Click on draw table again. This is from the design tab and the pen disappears. You'll also notice that in my fourth row there seems to be no line, no border along that row. So let me get rid of that. I'm going back to draw table, pen color white this time, and I'm just gonna click along the vertical line and it disappears. Click on draw table to take off my pen, and now I believe my table looks the same as the example.